All right, starting off this hour, he's the man who's made a name for himself by sharing explosive government leaks on the secret spilling website known as WikiLeaks, and is now facing the consequences for those data drops. Love him or hate him, the press and public can't seem to get enough of the WikiLeaks co-founder, Julian Assange. His tale, after all, is one of classified documents and evading authority. In other words, the perfect made-for-TV drama. And this case is far from over. RT International had a chance to sit down with the man himself to find out the latest developments in his political standoff. Here's part of that interview with RT's Laura Smith.
Julian, you're saying basically in your book that the internet can enslave us, but the internet's just a thing, right? It's a soulless a piece of equipment. Who are the real enslavers?
The people who control the interception of the internet and to some degree also physically control the big data warehouses and the international fibre optic lines. So we all think of the internet as some kind of platonic realm where we can throw our ideas and communications and web pages and books, and they exist somewhere out there. Actually, they exist on web servers in New York or Nairobi or in Beijing, and the information comes to us through satellite connections or through fibre optic cables. So whoever physically controls this controls the realm of our ideas and communications. And whoever is able to sit on those communications channels can intercept entire nations, and that's the new game in town as far as state spying is concerned, intercepting entire nations, not individuals.
And this sounds like a kind of futuristic scenario, but you're saying that the future's already here.
Yeah, I mean, the United States National Security Agency has been doing this for some 30, 20 years, but now it's spread to even mid-sized nations. Even Gaddafi's Libya was employing the Eagle system, which is produced by a French company, Amicis, pushed there in 2009, advertised in its internal documentation as nationwide interception system. So what's happened over the last 10 years is every decreasing costs of intercepting each individual, now to the degree where it's cheaper to intercept every individual than it is to pick particular people to spy upon.
And what's the alternative, the sort of utopian alternative that you would put forward?
So the utopian alternative is to try and gain independence for the internet, for it to sort of declare independence versus the rest of the world. And that's really quite important, because if you think about what is human civilization that makes it quintessentially human and civilized, it is our shared knowledge. And that intellectual knowledge is something we're all putting onto the internet. And so if we can try and decouple that from the brute nature of states and their cronies, then I think we really have hope for a global civilization. If, on the other hand, the mere security guards, the people who control the guns, are able to take control of our intellectual life, take control of all the ways in which we communicate to each other, then of course you can see how dreadful the outcome will be. Because it won't just happen to one nation, it will happen to every nation at once. It is happening to every nation at once as far as spying is concerned, because now every nation is merging its society with internet infrastructure.
And in what way are we, as sort of naive internet users, if you like, and I exclude you from that, obviously, but kind of willingly collaborating with these collectors of personal data? We all have a Facebook account, we all have telephones which can be tracked.
Right, people think, well, yeah, I use Facebook, and maybe the FBI, if they made a request, could come and get it. And everyone's much more aware of that now, of course, because of Petraeus. But that's not the problem. The problem is that all the time, everyone, nearly everything they do on the internet is permanently recorded. Every web search. Do you know what you were thinking 1 year, 2 days, 3 months ago? Now, you don't know, but Google knows. It remembers. The National Security Agency, who intercepts the request if it flowed over the US border, it knows. Bill Binney, National Security Agency whistleblower, who was the research head of the National Security Agency's Signals and Intelligence Division, describes this as turnkey totalitarianism, that all the infrastructure has been built for absolute totalitarianism. It's just a matter of turning the key. And actually the key has already been turned a little bit, and it is now affecting people who are targeted for US drone strikes, organizations like WikiLeaks, national security reporters who are having their sources investigated is already partly turned. And the question is, will it go all the way?
Now, RT certainly isn't the only outlet with an eye on Assange. CNN host Aaron Brunette recently interviewed the man behind WikiLeaks to talk about his new book, Cypherpunks. But it didn't exactly go as planned.
I wanted to start by asking you something at the very beginning of your book that really shocked me. You said the internet is a threat to human civilization, and I saw that, and I thought, but the internet is the tool by which you, Julian Assange, have become one of the world's most controversial people, where you've published all this information. Why is the internet bad?
Well, here's the book here as well. It's on the back as well, that quote.
Looks like it started off on the wrong foot, and it only escalated from there.
We're in a situation where the entire...
I didn't agree to talk about the surveillance state.
We're in a situation... Well, I'm sorry.
Well, maybe Burnett should have been talking more about the surveillance state. Her network is, after all. CNN is beginning to resemble RT in many ways, with all of its coverage of Bradley Manning, domestic drones, and cybersecurity. Now, RT America had a chance to collaborate with our sister station, RT International, to pose a few questions to Assange ourselves. Here's one of the questions we here in D.C. wanted answered in particular, and that our viewers have asked numerous times. With an increasing war on whistleblowers, we wanted to know if there could ever be another Cablegate.
Yes, hopefully next year.
Right. What sort of time next year?
Oh, I wouldn't go into it, but hopefully earlier rather than later.
I mean, do you feel that when WikiLeaks is making these releases, you're having as large an impact as you had before?
Well, Cablegate is extraordinary, and we published this over a period of 12 months. It is the most significant leak, although our previous leak on the Iraq War was also 400,000 documents showing over 100,000 people being killed, and precisely how. That was also very significant. But yes, no one has done anything as significant as that since. But yeah, hopefully that will continue. I mean, the successes of WikiLeaks shouldn't be viewed merely as a demonstration of our organisation's virility or the virility of the activist community on the internet. They are also a function of this hoarding of information by these national security states. The reason that there was so much information to leak, the reason it could be leaked all at once, is because they had hoarded so much. Why had they hoarded so much? Well, to gain extra power through knowledge. They wanted their own knowledge internally to be easily accessible to their people, to be searchable, so as much power could be extracted from it as possible. WikiLeaks attempts to redress the imbalance of power by taking what's inside these very powerful institutions and giving them to the commons, people in general, so we can understand how our world works and stop takeover by these powerful institutions. But it's a function of how much knowledge these powerful institutions have accumulated.
Next week marks 2 years since Assange gave himself up to the British authorities, and we will continue to keep you posted on this story as it unfolds.